I don't think there is a spike of ransomware. I think ransomware is becoming a routine a while ago already. Okay. So if we look, I think the first attempt on ransomware was made in the 1989 when a virus was spreading over a floppy disk. So it's not something new.
It's not something new.
However, cybercrime is getting worse. The more devices are connected, the more geopolitics become less stable. So things are, become on their side. So it's estimated that there is a ransomware attack on a business every 11 seconds within this year. Global ransomware, if we look to the trend, it used to cost the global economy about 325 million in 2015.
Yeah.
It's projected to reach about 20 billion this year. And if it's continue on the same pace, it would reach about 264 billion by 2031. So if we look on May 7, I think cybercriminal managed to shut down the pipeline that is supplying, the oil to the American East Coast for almost 5 days. Yeah. And in order to get it flowing back, they had to pay about 4.3 million US dollars as a ransom payment by Colonial Pipeline Company in order to get things moving on, which we know a little bit later that the US government managed to restore part of that money that is being transferred. However, as you rightly mentioned, like a couple of days later of that, there was this ransomware attack, that crippled most of the hospital in Ireland.
Yeah.
And there is no day passed by that there is no headline about a new ransomware attacking or a new ransom demand because of this type of attack. So I think such an attack are evidence of how how intensifying the cyber insecurity is happening and how it's affecting everyone, like from school, healthcare providers, government entity, and it for sure it has a very catastrophic effect. Like imagine if it can hit an airline control system or a nuclear power plant, or if we're talking even about the online payment system that is really, fueling our economy these days. So I think it's quite interesting time that we're living in. Going through the reports, I think there was 3 main points than other countries in the world. And I think the last, and the last point I think was also interesting that, like organization in UAE tend to report less to authorities compared to other regions like in Europe or the US.
Okay, why? Any opinion on why that is? Is it to try and protect their own brand after being infiltrated, or what?
There is for sure different aspect for that, but I think first of all, regulation is very crucial into that aspects. Like organization in Europe or the US, there is certain regulation that require them to disclose these kind of attacks, not only to the government, but also to their customers and their partners and so forth, because it has a wide effect on all the stakeholders within the organization. Here in the region, I think we still, I know there is lots of, government bodies trying now to evolve the regulation into that aspect in order to have a better visibility and better support for the organization. So we see a more role for NISA, for example, in UAE, or DISC or the AE CERT, in order to engage with such type of attacks in UAE. Look, it's easy to debate about this topic, right? So everyone has his own point of view. It's very easy to say that I would not pay and so forth. But the situation under the attack is completely different, and this is something we see it with engagement with organizations that been hit by ransomware. But as hitting by ransomware once is already a nightmare for any organization. But also imagine that there is a high probability for this organization who already paid to get hit by the same attacker or another attackers again within a very short time. So imagine these organizations and even government that have this recurring nightmare. So there is really several cases that behind such kind of incidents that range from poor cybersecurity posture or lingering vulnerability to persistent threat actors, or even leaving access for victim environments after the first attack. So it's really important for any organization that's been hit by ransomware to really understand the root cause of the ransomware attack. It's for sure very important. And sometimes the root cause might not have been the ransomware, right? It could be just what made it visible. In many cases, ransomware is just the byproduct of another undetected infection. So that's why like investigation, that's why like investigation and remediating the underlying cause of any attack is very crucial to prevent any subsequent attacks. So like implementing, modern security software and endpoint security solution, or the endpoint detection and response to have a better visibility within the environment. Not to mention like backups that provide additional recovery capabilities for these type of attacks. Look, many organizations really neglect the basics, Mark. So what I would really recommend is mainly like 4 tips to defend against ransomware. So first one is follow the security hygiene best practices. Like it's about timely patch management, it's about offsite data backup, it's about employees, security awareness and training. This is very crucial. Every organization has to do it.
Yes.
The second point I would recommend is to deploy a multi-layer prevention capabilities on all the enterprise endpoint across the network. We're talking about legacy system, latest workstation and servers, and even if the organization they're using, cloud or containers, they really need to protect these assets, regardless of the technologies running it. And the third one is really implementing the extended detection and response solution, or what is known as an XDR across the whole environment, because it's really about connecting different aspects beyond the traditional endpoint, from identity, from network, and so forth. So you have better visibility to end these advanced ransomware attacks before they can gain foot within the network. And the last point I would recommend is to practice strategy and implement like a zero trust architecture with restricted sensitive data access and protection. I think this is something that is very visible within our result across the organization that have been under attack without an impact, or even the organization that have been hit by ransomware, then they started implementing these kind of measures. Yeah, that's very interesting. So look, Mark, policies and plans are very important, right? Yeah. But always the devil in the details. And when you are under an actual attack, situation varies because of lots of unknowns. Like there could be some misconfiguration, or how the public can react, or how authorities can involve, or if it's a double extortion type of attack. So if I look to the Colonial Pipeline attack last month, right? So within 5 days, they did the payment. They interviewed the CEO, Joseph Blount, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and he told the lawmakers in the US that although his company had an emergency response plan in place, it didn't include a response for a ransomware attack. And because the company had an insurance, the decision for payment was very swift. However, there are many factors that really affect the organization if they're going to pay or not pay, and usually this decision is made at the very end of the negotiation with the ransomware cyber criminal. Especially, I think, mainly after the organization determine if they can manage to recover their backup and avoid the payment, or not. But also, even then, it's very difficult to be certain on the integrity of the backup, and it can take several days. So let's take, for example, the backup integrity, which is very real major issues currently within any organization that's been hit by ransomware. Most of the companies don't have a properly configured backup, or they haven't even tested the resilience of these backup, or their ability to recover their backup against ransomware scenarios. To give you an example, like an organization might have, let's say 50 petabytes of backups in a facility, could be like 100 kilometers away. And then when they start restoring their backup, they notice that it's very slow. And when they do the calculation, they found out like it might take them about 60 years just to retrieve this backup.
Wow.
So sometimes you do have
solutions that are deployed, are, as you say, that are ineffective, and these backup solutions.
Yeah, so it's really about the details on how things are being configured and set up or tested, or being the organization has run into a simulation of such type of attack. Even sometimes we notice organization, they have a backup in their network, and then they notice that the ransomware criminal, they managed to corrupt it or even encrypt it. But also, I think it's very important to understand, especially the double extortion type of ransomware attack. I think with Cybereason, we have a very detailed research on how things is being played within that ecosystem. But if we look, cyber criminal might be able to access the data of an organization, collect the IPs, the customer information, and then demand the ransom payment from the victims. And if they don't pay, they will publish the information that they have on the dark web or sell it to the highest bidder or the competitors. Or even sometimes we saw cases where these cyber criminals threatened organization to report them for GDPR compliance violation because they haven't encrypted certain data related to information.
Oh, really?
So it's really, it's not that easy to say like, I'm not gonna pay or I'm gonna pay, or if I just have a policy, then I'm safe. No, actually there is more elements that you need to look at it. But I think at the end of the day, as scary as these attackers are, I think we look back at this time and we say, like all these real, incidents from Colonial, GBS, the healthcare sector within Ireland, it's really witnessing us, like on what's happening. Because it's really like a wake-up call for us that we are not as safe as we thought we are.